The Watership Down podcast is intended for listeners who are familiar with the plot. There will be spoilers. This episode is scripted, recorded, edited and narrated by Newell Fisher. Hello, and welcome to the Watership Down podcast, episode 142, being recorded outdoors on a lovely November day, in which we'll be looking at season 2, episode 5 of the TV series and episode 17 of the series overall, The Stand. I'm still showcasing Watership Down themed art, details in the notes. Please let me know if you would like your Watership Down themed art to appear as the podcast title image for an episode, with full credit given. I've received an interesting message from Owsler member Eric Steps about the 3 seasons of this series that is very much worth passing on. He expressed the view that the first season tried to stay close to the novel of Watership Down. However, the second season is far more Disney in character, while the third, and we'll come back to this, is more anime in character. The third season, the one that didn't air in the UK, is approaching fast. It is the furthest we have got yet from the novel, but yes, I can see the logic of the anime comment. I very much enjoyed it personally, but we are very, very far from the source material. After we have dealt with this TV series, we'll get back to portrayals of Watership Down that are a lot closer to the original. But before then, things are going to get interesting. Or, if you prefer, too far away from the Watership Down to be worth paying attention to. And if that is your view, I respect it. But we will go there, and I will give season 3 my full attention before getting back to more familiar territory. Anyway, let's return to the conflict between what is about to increase to 3 very different warrens that are far too near to one another. Season 2, Episode 5, The Stand. The 18th episode of the Watership Down TV series was first broadcast in the UK on the 31st of August 2000. It was written by Mary Crawford and Alan Templeton. There will be a link to the episode in the notes. The story told in this episode is a product of the fact that all the warrens that appear in the overall story arc, apart from Sandalford, which you never see, are a lot closer together in this series than in the original story, where the Warren of the Snares is left behind for good by the rabbits heading for Watership Down. We only hear of it again once Holly and Bluebell arrive on the down, and a very unhappy tale it is. The actual site of the Warren of the Snares lies almost the same distance from Watership Down as the actual site of Ephrata, both a couple of days' journey away and in completely opposite directions. The likelihood of Cowslip and Woundwort ever meeting is almost impossible in that actual landscape. Why would they? But here we are not in that original landscape, and many things are now possible. As we join the action, Kihar and Hannah are patrolling the skies over the Warren of the Snares. Hannah says it looks peaceful in a way that suggests she doesn't mean it. Kihar points out that the big water also looks peaceful, but underneath there are monsters. Bigwig and Hazel approach the Warren under cover. Hazel says it looks safe enough. Bigwig says he thought so too until he got caught in a snare. He turns to those who are with them and tells them to remember what he said. They turn out to be Primrose, Captain Broom, Fiver, Marigold and Hickory, who all recite his advice in unison. Bigwig realises he has been going on a bit. Hickory says his real worry is Cowslip, and Marigold adds, by way of exposition, that he can't be very happy about their having left to set up another warren. Captain Broom says it isn't easy defying your chief, but it has to be done sometimes. He starts to reminisce until Primrose reminds him of their situation. The delegation break cover and approach the warren, where they are met by Cowslip. He starts his strange ritualised greeting, but is interrupted by Bigwig. Cowslip says how easily manners are forgotten. He turns to Hickory and Marigold and says they have been missed. Hazel says they are leaving for good and to go and get their friends. Cowslip protests, blocking their way, but is violently knocked aside by Bigwig, who tells him to shut it. Broom says there's no need for that, but Bigwig says he'll be lucky if he doesn't kill him. Fiver fills Broom in on what kind of rabbit Cowslip is, trading the lives of his fellow rabbits for Flayra from a human. He is sick, as is the whole warren. Broom says angrily he has seen enough of sickness in his day. Hickory emerges with all those who are joining their new warren at Redstone. Cowslip urges them to stay. Think of all they will miss, the songs of Silverweed, for example. Marigold says they are going. Sneakily, Cowslip asks where they are going. Far away from this death trap is Hazel's response. That is all Cowslip needs to know. As they leave, Cowslip says to himself that they don't turn away from the shining wire so easily. The Cowslip of this series, voiced so well by Stephen Fry, truly is a step up in insanity from the Cowslip of the original story, where he was merely in denial about the snares just as much as the fellow members of his warren. Here he is made a pantomime villain, fully aware of the location of the snares it seems, and happy to see those under him sacrificed to them so that he can feed well. Talking of pantomime villains, we are now back at Ephrafa, where an escape is underway. As two rabbits make their way out of the enclosing canyon of this Ephrafa, some falling earth alerts the owsler. The cry, "Runners!" goes up, and they are pursued. A common theme of a sick warren, it seems, is an unwillingness to let rabbits leave it. Thank goodness it isn't the same for humans. Yes, that was sarcasm. Hannah and Keehar continue their air patrol as the Watership Down and Redstone party reach the canal we last saw when Primrose returned to her home warren of Redstone in episode 9 of the first series. They stop as Hickory tells his newly escaped companions about a flower they can eat. Marigold tells them how to take refuge in an old log. These are clearly rabbits with a lot to learn. Fiver and Primrose are impressed. Things are looking up for Redstone Warren. Nearby, Cowslip emerges from cover. Apparently he has heard the name of the new warren. Back at Ephrafa, Captain Campion is reporting to General Woundwort that the most recent escapees made it across the stone bridge. Vervain is tracking them. Woundwort says one escapee encourages others. Campion must clamp down hard. Campion, who is actually now a spy for Watership Down, asks if that is actually the answer. Rabbits are running from Ephrafa because they are hungry, and the rules are crushing them. He starts to say that they just need a bit of freedom, but he is interrupted by Woundwort, who insists that they only run because they know there is a place to run to. They believe Hazel's warren is the Garden of Frith. If hunger wins over fear, then that means their fear is not strong enough. As he leaves, he tells Campion he has his orders. Clamp down. Using fear and hunger as the means of controlling a population. Another thing people have never done. Yes, that's sarcasm again. We are now at the newly refounded Redstone Warren, where Captain Broom is recounting old war stories to an entranced Hickory. Marigold tells the Watership Down rabbits that they will be happy there. Hannah the mouse comments that it would be good having neighbours who aren't trying to kill them all the time. Nearby, Cowslip looks on, then leaves. Primrose says that her and Captain Broom will stay for a while to make sure that they are okay. Bigwig says he will too, to make sure their security is up to scratch. They need to avoid the Ephrafans finding them. Hazel realises he is due to meet with Campion and leaves with Keehar. Vervain is tracking with his Ephrafan patrol. The runners are close. Suddenly the two runners break cover and Moss, the pale Ephrafan Owsler member, calls the alarm. Cowslip is making his way along the canal. The two runners from Ephrafa emerge and beg him to help them, asking if he is Hazel. Before Cowslip can even respond, the Ephrafan patrol is on them. All three rabbits are surrounded. Laughing, Vervain the sadist orders the two runners returned to Ephrafa. They are scruffed and dragged away, leaving Vervain with Cowslip, who makes Vervain he is chief of his warren. Vervain informs him he is nothing now. Back at Redstone, Bigwig is just about to start work on clearing a run when Fiver has one of his visions. He says in a trance, "Two enemies unite to spread the fight. The evil is double for twice the trouble." Bigwig is cynical as ever about these funny turns. Which two enemies could he mean? Well, they only have two warrens they're in conflict with, unless Bigwig thinks Rabbits and Alil are now in cahoots. Back at Ephrafa, justice is being dispensed. The two runners are placed on a digging squad on half rations and warned of a terrible fate if they run again. Woundwort's attention turns to Cowslip. Vervain says that Cowslip claims to be the chief of a warren. Woundwort asks if all the rabbits of Cowslip's warren are the same as him. Cowslip says in terms of size, yes, but not in terms of cunning. Woundwort says a lesson in humility seems in order. He orders Cowslip to be put into a slave squad. As Vervain starts dragging him away, Cowslip says that would benefit neither of them. He understands Woundwort is seeking Hazel and his companions. Cowslip says he can deliver them. Woundwort says hold. It seems he and Cowslip have things to talk about. It is night time now. Kihar approaches the signal tree and sees that there is a pebble inside its hollow. Hazel waits not far away, and Kihar lets him know. The message stone still being there means Campion is not coming. Hazel says they can wait a bit longer. Kihar suggests that this may mean Woundwort isn't planning anything bad. Hazel says that would make a change. In Afrafa, Cowslip comments on the poor health the rabbits there seem to be in. Woundwort replies that the weaker they are, the less chance there is of rebellion. Cowslip contrasts this with his approach. His people are stupid and content. His lies are truth, and they believe it all. Vervain points out that they could use a few rabbits like Cowslip in Afrafa. If they are his size, they would get twice the work out of them. So, the choice of approaches comes down to keeping your people hungry and scared, or content and stupid. But doesn't that rather depend on the availability of food? Cowslip's warren has an abundant supply provided by a human whose only price is taking the occasional rabbit for his own food. Efrafa, on the other hand, has a normal food supply for a warren, growing all around it, only one that cannot be supplied adequately for fear of the rabbits who consume it using the opportunity to escape. And we now know that Woundwort is also deliberately using hunger as a means of control. In such a regime, how long would the rabbits of Cowslip's warren remain so big and strong? In any case, Woundwort asks Cowslip if he would object to letting a few of his rabbits join Efrafa. Cowslip agrees, as long as he can have some Efrafans in exchange. In modern human society, we would use such phrases as slavery and human trafficking to describe this grubby little deal. These are two rabbits united by a complete contempt for the lives of their fellow rabbits. When I started looking at this episode, I thought the idea of a meeting of minds between Woundwort and Cowslip was ridiculous, notwithstanding the distance between their warrens in the original story. But between this Woundwort and this Cowslip, it seems all too believable. Cowslip asks if he is free to go. Woundwort puts on his friendly act for the rabbit who is about to hand him Hazel and the outsiders, but Vervain wants more details on Redstone Warren, which Cowslip gives them, saying it lies near Man's Water Trail, meaning the canal. Woundwort thanks him and offers a place to sleep for the night. Nearby, a worried Campion is listening to the conversation and slips away. Cowslip says it would be best to attack Redstone immediately, as Hazel and his companions are there now. A less friendly Woundwort asks him when Cowslip was planning on telling him this. Cowslip replies when they had reached agreement on his fate, which they have. Woundwort tells Vervain to find Campion and call the Owsla. They will attack Redstone at dawn. In the skies above Redstone we see a shooting star. Broom is telling Primrose that it would be a good idea to bring her babies to Redstone one day to see her home warren. She says when they are old enough. Fiver and Bigwig are with them, and they are all looking at a full moon. As Broom holds forth with more tales of the past, Fiver looks up in shock to see the stars in the sky arrange themselves into a shape, a familiar shape. It is the Black Rabbit of Inlay. He cries out in shock and states another vision. A warning comes from the lone and the brave. The one who will save us is the one we can't save. Fiver's cries bring the rest of the rabbits above ground. He says the Black Rabbit is coming for one of them. Campion is making his way alone through the woods. He reaches the message tree. Just as he is looking inside the hollow, he senses movement behind him. He instinctively attacks what turns out to be Hazel, pinning him on his back. Campion tells Hazel to never sneak up on a captain of Owsla. Hazel says he will bear that in mind. Campion reports that Woundwort has allied with Cowslip and will attack Redstone at dawn. Hazel leaves immediately as Primrose is at Redstone, leaving Kihar with Campion. Kihar asks Campion if he wants to join them at Watership Down yet. He must be very lonely. Campion says he feels like an alien in his own warren. To cheer Campion up, Kihar offers to tell him about the big water, which apparently is very big and made of water. Campion begins to regret engaging with Kihar's powers of description. At Efrafa, the Owsla has assembled. Vervain arrives to say he cannot find Campion anywhere. Woundwort orders Moss to place Campion under arrest for dereliction of duty when he returns. The Owsla move out, heading for Redstone. Hazel is making his way to Redstone in the dark as quickly as possible. Suddenly, an owl swoops at him and he has to take cover. His progress to save Primrose is now in jeopardy. At Ephrafa, Campion returns only to be met by Moss and another Owsla member. Moss tells him he has to place him under arrest. Campion says he will ask Woundwort what the charge is, but Moss tells him he has gone to attack Redstone. In shock, Campion bluffs that he has returned from patrol with important news for Woundwort, but Moss won't let him go. Moss respects Campion and clearly does not like being in this position. He likes it even less when Campion barges past them both violently. Reluctantly, Moss raises the alarm, crying out, "Runner!" Campion is now a fugitive from Ephrafa. The Ephrafa Owsla is making its way towards Redstone, accompanied by Cowslip, who, having shown them the way, says he is a plotter, not a fighter. He wishes them good hunting. Woundwort watches him leave and comments, "There's something wrong with that rabbit." The words pot and kettle spring to mind. In the distance, Vervain hears Kihar, but Woundwort dismisses his concern. The Owsla resume their progress towards Redstone. Hazel is still unable to move because of the owl. He hears Kihar and calls out to him. Kihar dismisses the owl with a torrent of abuse, and Hazel is able to continue on his way, expecting to arrive just after dawn. This is cutting things a bit fine. Why not just send Kihar ahead with the message? Elsewhere, Campion is desperately making his way to Redstone as well. He sees Woundwort and the Owsla nearby. He must stay ahead of them. At Redstone, Bigwig and Primrose are above ground. Primrose is haunted by Fiver's vision of the black rabbit. Just as Bigwig is trying to reassure her, an exhausted Campion arrives. He does not waste time before getting to the point. Woundwort is coming and Bigwig immediately starts the evacuation. Primrose says he has risked his life for them again. Campion says it was for her. Bigwig tells the others they have to quickly cover up any sign they were there. We learn in the process that one of the new rabbits is called Gentian. Campion says they cannot possibly get rid of all signs of occupation. Primrose adds they will be hunted down. Captain Broom says he won't have his warren wiped out for a second time before getting distracted by another of his tales of the past. Left alone, Broom looks angry as he vows he won't let Redstone fall again. He says he will be short-eared if he does. The ultimate rabbit vow. The sun is rising. Woundwort and his Owsla arrive on a ridge above Redstone. There is no sign of any rabbits outside. Thinking they must still be asleep, Woundwort orders an immediate attack. Nearby, Bigwig, with Hannah the Mouse on his back, is ordering his escapees to make their way up a stream so they don't leave a scent. They suddenly realise that Captain Broom is not with them. Bigwig sets off back to Redstone, angry that Broom has been an old fool. At Redstone, Hazel and Kihar have arrived too late and watch events unfold from cover. Vervain reports to Woundwort that the warren is empty but has been occupied recently. As Woundwort does his signature growl, Captain Broom suddenly emerges, saying how glad he is to see other rabbits. Hazel is incredulous. What on earth is he up to? Vervain demands Broom identify himself. He is Captain Broom, retired, and alone all these seasons since the Great Sickness. This is absolute genius. The Ephrathans are immediately terrified. Broom drives his point home. The whole warren was wiped out. Impersonating his earlier lonely self when Hazel and Primrose found him living on his own at Redstone in episode 9 of series 1, Broom asks the Ephrathans if they will be staying and moves towards them, offering to tell them stories. Woundwort cries out that this is a plague warren and to retreat. Broom, amused, comments that no one wants to hear his stories. Back at the top of the ridge, Woundwort says Cowslip lied to him. He knew this warren was diseased. To be fair to Cowslip, this is not true. However, to the Woundworts of this world, suspicion is all you need. They are going after the plotter, not a fighter, who will fight and then die. As they depart for the Warren of the Snares, Woundwort promises his Owsla battle by dusk. Point of order. How do they know where it is? They can't even find the Warren on Watership Down. With Woundwort gone, Hazel and Kihar descend to Redstone to congratulate Captain Broom for bluffing an entire army. Just then, Bigwig and his companions arrive. Once Bigwig is updated, he expresses satisfaction that Woundwort will face the shining wires. Campion asks what he means, and Fiver explains. Hannah laughs at Woundwort's impending fate. And then something strange happens. You might call it a key moment in this series. Campion, despite having betrayed Ephrafa, is horrified. He rushes off saying he has to warn Woundwort. I'm not sure this residual loyalty is entirely convincing, but it does reflect the inner turmoil of the Campion of this series. Hazel says he will go after Campion. At the Warren of the Snares, Cowslip has arrived back. He gives a look that seems to imply he knows what is about to happen, but why would he? He has no idea about Broom's bluff. Somehow the Ephraphans have found his warren. An Ephrafan enters a bush and we hear the sound of him being caught in a snare. Woundwort doesn't know what is happening. Vervain suggests the warren is haunted. Just as Woundwort makes his way towards the warren, Campion knocks him aside in an attempt to protect him. Revealing a concealed snare, he tells Woundwort about the shining wires, that the whole place is a death trap. Woundwort orders a retreat. But now Vervain intervenes. Why has Campion just happened to turn up there at that moment? Where was he the previous night? How did he know where to find them? And how did he know about the snares? Vervain, despite being a despicable sadist, has a point. Woundwort shows no gratitude for his life being saved. Campion cannot answer these questions, and he is arrested and led away. Hazel, who is hiding nearby, looks on horrified. Cowslip calls after Woundwort, saying the Shining Wire is always happy to welcome him. A short tale of 3 very different Chief Rabbits. At dusk, back on Watership Down, Hazel discusses the day's events with Primrose. She repeats Fiver's vision of the Black Rabbit of Inlay. What if he is coming for Campion? Hazel, unconvincingly, says they will find a way to save him. Primrose says no one can stop the Black Rabbit. No one. Thunder breaks in nearby storm clouds. Is it canon? Once again, obviously not. But also, once again, however. The Black Rabbit of Inlay we see in this episode is very much based on the abstract portrayal of him from the 1978 film, which I treat as canon. This following of such visual conventions is very interesting. Also, Woundwort's attack on Redstone is the nearest portrayal on film to the attack on Nutley Copse Warren described in the original novel. And it is always a joy to hear Richard Briers, who portrayed Fiver in the 1978 film as Captain Broom. In this episode, as Broom scares Woundwort away from Redstone, there is the briefest of conversations between him and John Hurt playing Woundwort here. They were the original Hazel and Fiver on film, and they were by far the best. Next time, we take another, somewhat bizarre break from Ephrafa, given what has just happened, as the rabbits of Watership Down meet a terrifying, rampaging badger.